Hello and welcome to episode 1 of the Maverick Games Podcast. I'll use this moment to explain why this is episode 1 when you might have already heard a previous episode,
which we
titled.
It's for engineers.
A base zero numbering system is the best way to operate a
Index
podcast.
based.
Yeah.
The reason for that was because when we recorded the last podcast, that was actually before we'd even announced the studio. And honestly, we were just trying out the facilities and didn't actually expect that we would release it. But it turned out to be pretty good. So we thought, we'll put it out there, call it episode 0, and, well, no foul. So this is episode 1. Next one will be episode 2, even though it's 3, and that's just a bed that we have made, and we'll have to lie in now for all eternity, or at least as long as this podcast goes on for, which will be at least this episode.
Yeah, hopefully not eternity.
Array index out of bounds.
Which we've had to correct each other on at least once every time we've talked about it in the studio.
257, that's not happening.
Yeah. When a programmer comes on the podcast, they can correct us, but until now,
we'll just get it wrong. We'll keep getting it wrong. Keep getting it wrong until we've got a program in the room to tell us what's going on. How do numbers work? Okay, so I'm Mike Brown, creative director at Maverick Games, and joining me on the show today is
Tom Butcher, executive producer,
Fraser Strachan, audio director,
and Ben Penrose, art director.
Ben, welcome.
Hi.
Your first appearance.
He's here.
Your first appearance on episode 1.
Yeah, got the proper number, not the 0 one. It's not actually a number. I reckon that's what an engineer will say. Actually, but
it was actually a podcast. What gives?
I know. It's just like the universe. Strange events. But yeah, no, it's awesome to be here. It's great. Like it's even cozier in here than it looked from the feed that I saw last time.
So special cameras.
Yeah, special cameras, making the space look twice as big as it actually is.
It's like a hot tub with loads of electrical equipment in it.
Yeah,
and no water or tub.
And no water, and we've got our clothes on.
The other thing I didn't realise is that whole side is glass, so there's lots of people enjoying a coffee right now.
There's a whole studio audience out there.
Yeah.
That lady keeps looking over at us wondering what we're doing.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah. All right, enough.
So Ben, as your first time here, do you want to just give a little intro to you, who you are, why you're here?
Yeah, okay. So, my name is Ben. Hello, everybody. So I worked with all of you guys at Playground Games for many years. So I was at Playground for about 10 years. Not quite 10 years, but I rounded up because it feels like a nice round number. And then since then, I actually went and helped a really great team at Sharp Mob, who were originally based over in Malmo, set up a London studio right in the centre of London, actually. So it was a massive change of pace from being in leafy Leamington Spa, where it was all very chill, to being right on the Strand in London, where it was mental. But it was a lot of fun, met lots of really great people. Actually got a chance to work with some old friends there as well, who also might have been at Playground Games, as well as a few other places. But this is amazing. This is something that I have wanted to do for a long time. And the fact I'm getting to do it with people like yourselves and the rest of the team is just a massive privilege. So, incredibly excited.
Thanks, Ben.
That's all right.
That was really touching. Do we have like a emotional sound effect?
He does.
We've got, I don't know.
It's not.
Oh, that'll do.
That'll do. It's a very lovey-dovey one.
Yeah. All right. So the first section of the show today is what you've been playing. So Fraser, I'll go to you first. What have you been playing?
So I've dived straight into Hi-Fi Rush.
Of course he has. He's the audio guy.
It was one of those games where it's like, this was made for me. I've been having loads of fun with it. Like, I think it's probably one of the most polished games I've played in a very long time. Like the seamlessness from the cinematics into gameplay and just the art style and how it all like just seamlessly blends is amazing. It stops you wanting to put the controller down because it's slightly on rails, so it takes you from one level into the next, and you just I sort of have found myself having to stop after a boss battle, which is kind of the point where you're like at your most adrenaline high, and but I've just been loving it. It's
not as like a pad down moment or
as a catch your breath moment.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to put the pad down and just like, but it's amazing. Like I don't think I've had a gaming experience like this in a long time. Obviously, hits that kind of musicality bone that I've got, where it's just super satisfying to press the buttons on the beat. I do find it kind of, it's like playing jazz a little bit because I'm so tuned into it. You press on the beat, but then the action happens the beat afterwards because of the way the animations are all working. So actually, it's a bit sort of staccato. It's cool.
Bit of reggae.
That already sounds far too complicated. So famously, so I'm supposed to be a musician.
Supposed to be.
Yeah. According to some friends. But I famously have the worst sense of rhythm in the world. So always been terrible at rhythm-based games. And when that came up on the showcase, I was like, oh, this looks cool. And then as soon as they mentioned rhythm-based gameplay, I was like, not for me. or if it is, it'll be a very torturous experience.
Yes. Did you find yourself just thinking about all the complex musical contracts you had that would have had to have been?
Yeah. I was. I mean that. Possibly that's why I'm so impressed, because I'm just kind of like, wow, they would have that would have been a year to figure out, and wow, all this other stuff as well. They
signed off that.
Well, even like take away the sort of legal side of it, like when you turn all the music off in the game, all the sound effects are all like chugging away at the same BPM, and it's incredible how much work has gone into that. And you know, I've worked on games before where you try and get teams together to work on BPM based systems, and it's incredibly hard to get buy-in from every single department as to how to get that stuff triggering on at the same time. So the amount of work that's gone into it, and probably quite hidden to just your normal players, especially when it's that seamless, it blew me away.
It's one of those things that is all about game feel. It's hard to actually describe it, because you said BPM there and people are going, oh yeah, beats per minute, I know that word. But it's also actually quite hard to demonstrate and show and even explain to people. It really is one that's just, it feels like really satisfying, and everything just feels like it's really singing together.
Yeah.
That's what that is, and that is work for every single team on that whole studio that had to work together to get that. But the output of it is it just feels really good.
Yeah. And the fact that they have like a streamer mode, which is similar to games that we worked on previously, where all the cinematics and everything that you're doing is to the beat, but you can turn off the licensed music and listen to composed music, which, I mean, because of the nature of it being like synced to the beat, it still works. But because they've edited all those cinematics, it doesn't feel like you're getting a secondary experience by switching to the streamer mode music. So it's just great.
Also, the thing that really impressed me, which is nothing to do with the game itself, but it's the fact that it was a complete secret, and everything leaks nowadays.
Incredible. Everything leaks, and every bit of marketing playbook would tell you need a run up, you need a pre-order period, you need to get on store shelves and have the pre-order thing and have the pre-order gift and all of that stuff that's just a part of the business.
Although
they've just gone, instead of that, we're going to just announce it and release it like a few hours later, which is just it's really cool.
I guess they did
super satisfying.
They did have the advantage of being the first, like it's the first version of that game, right? I feel like it's even more difficult to keep it a secret when you're working on version 5, and you've got half the internet waiting.
But there's still thousands of people that would have known about it, and they're going to be telling other people about it. Like, you know how these things go. Like, the amount of people that would have known it was going to get revealed and released in that show, only one of them needs to tell, one of those Twitter people. And it's like, oh, got a source. So I mean, massive success. I mean, I don't know if they've released numbers. I hope it's been really successful.
I haven't seen anything, but I've seen some cool stuff about how they've hinted at like the Evil Within 3, like
very different universe.
Yeah,
it's super cool. Yeah,
the way they announced it was super cool as well. They're like super casual, like they made fun of themselves. It was really not too serious, and that's the way the game should be.
Totally
agreed.
Ben, what have you been playing?
So I've been on a bit of a gaming binge recently, actually.
Good.
It's been great. So. When I've been chilling out with my kids, I've been playing a ton of Sonic Frontiers, which has been an interesting experience. Interesting to have Sonic looking like Sonic in a world made up of very real world mega scans type environment assets. But like bit of cognitive dissonance for me as an artist with that one.
The movie.
Yeah, absolutely. But ton of fun, huge amount of fun. So it's been a proper blast playing through it. I actually got to the end not too long ago, hit the credit sequence, and looked over at my 5-year-old, and it's the first game he's ever really gotten into. So it's been quite a big moment. And I said to him, Jeff, are you okay? And you look a bit sad. And I said, are you just upset because the game's finished? And he looked at me and was like, I burst into tears. And I had to explain, you can play it again. You can play it whenever you
There's
want.
other Sonics. There's loads. There's been so many Sonics.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's true. Did Sonic die at the end?
Spoilers, Fraser.
I'm not.
God.
This is a spoiler-free zone.
Oh yeah, sorry.
But I guess the stuff that I've been playing that I've been really enjoying, not appropriate to play with a 5-year-old. Just finished the new God of War Ragnarok. Absolutely amazing experience. The artwork is just next level. It's interesting, like coming from a game dev point of view, you play that game and you're looking at it and you go, this bit was clearly the bit that the internal team spent hours, or not hours, like months working on, and you can tell it's been, sort of titillated to its like the nth degree. And then there's another bit which still looks incredible, but you can tell maybe didn't have like all of the A team on it, and maybe that was something that been outsourced somewhere. Which it's the curse of the game developer, I think. You can't help but spot that stuff, unfortunately. But regardless, absolutely incredible experience. And that's the type of game that I've never traditionally been that into, the sort of hardcore third-person action game. So it's been great. And now that's finished, that's put to bed. I haven't properly dived into anything yet. I'm still trying to work out what is my next game. But I think it's the Dead Space remake.
Oh, nice.
Again,
So
not
looking
appropriate for a
forward
5-year-old. Very much so.
Small bits, maybe.
I mean, I've gone through the first
screen.
bit, and it's even scarier than the first time round because it looks so much better. It's like the blood is just even more visceral when it's all over your character. Like your characters gets completely drenched. But yeah. So that's me.
Amazing. I've been playing a little game called Red Dead Redemption 2.
Never heard of it.
Well, let me tell you a little bit about it. It's a game about cowboys. So I started this when it came out, fell away from it, gone back to it recently.
You've been playing Red Dead since 2018.
It is a long
Is that when it
game.
came out? Yeah, I have.
It's a long campaign.
It came out when Forza Horizon 4 came out. Yeah, it's been a while. I thought I should finish it.
Was it the same day?
No, it was like a few weeks later because we were like...
It's very close, wasn't it?
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
very
yeah.
close. Yeah.
We were keeping an eye on it anyway, let's say. To the surprise of no one, it's obviously amazing. But I just did the hot air balloon mission. If people remember that one, which
I think
again with a game developer lens on is the.
So how cuttable was that mission? There was no reason whatsoever to do all the work for that. They could have just gone, let's just not.
You're in an open world. You're suddenly putting the camera way up in the sky. You can see loads of stuff. Okay, there's a bit of cloud cover, but and anyone that's played with Event Lab in Forza Horizon will know what happens when you go too high in the game. But yeah, it's just that is just the theme of that game, and that there's just so much. You talk there about little areas of the game where you think they haven't quite had that little bit of polish and attention to. There's none of that. It's just all of it is ridiculously high quality. But it's been great fun playing through that. Also played the Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or Hero, if you grew up in the UK. Shredder's Revenge, which is the side-scrolling beat-em-up. Again, really good. I've been playing through that with my kids, and they're asking really weird questions like, who's that little pink alien? That's Krang. Okay, who's the robot? Is that Krang's
person?
robot? I don't know what his name is.
Is that person dead?
Yeah, they all kind of blow up and disappear and stuff. It's really difficult to explain why the pink brain's in his stomach, but it's a robot. Anyway, it's a great game though. It's really fun to play. It's got loads of nice quality of life features for, I guess, what you'd expect from almost like a one-on-one beat 'em up, like a Street Fighter. Like you can chain moves into each other, and you can do loads of really satisfying combos. And it's super fun. Really recommend.
Beautiful
it.
art style as well.
Oh, it looks
really
incredible.
well
It
realised.
looks incredible. Yeah.
It's a couch co-op sort of.
Big time,
isn't it?
Yeah.
I think you can play six player.
I think you're right.
Yeah. And it's got Casey Jones in as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone's favorite B
guy.
character.
Yeah. It's the character when you go and watch the movie and someone like smugly says that's Casey Jones.
was that person you?
Yeah.
Just random cinema man. So it was God of War, Red Dead Redemption 2. Mm-hmm. I've been playing Forspoken. So Forspoken got a bit of a kicking on social media. Mm-hmm. I thought, and I actually think that's a little harsh. There's a lot to love about the game, to be honest. It's one of those where you play it, and I think definitely you play it as a dev, you're like, it's like, you can just tell where their ambition didn't quite match either their tech or their release date.
Yeah.
And so there's a few times you just like, it's like they obviously didn't want it to be this way, and it's like it's just kind of been made that way by some forces outside of the creative direction of the game. I think combat's really good. I think it is a really fun game. It has really cool combat, really cool spells, really satisfying spells as well. It's got that almost Force Unleashed vibe. Like she can just like summon rocks and launch at enemies and stuff. The enemy design again is also very cool. A lot of like really like corrupted like animals and wildlife and stuff that have made into these like kind of monsters with like mouths in the chest and stuff. Pretty cool stuff.
Can't beat a good mouse in the chest.
It's very chilling, really, honestly, because it kind of looks like, maybe that's like a bear, which itself would be scary, but it's a bear where its mouth is like this big fanged whole chest opening up thing. It's like pretty gnarly, and the story is as well like really really cool. I know it's got some pretty incredible writing talent on it. It's got Amy Hennig is credited, and Gary Whitta and others who I've probably done a disservice by not remembering the names of. But it's
very topical for something we're going to talk about later.
I'm sure they are credited. It's just my shoddy memory. And it has got a really cool universe, right? It's got the cool premise of this kid who's kind of like really down on her luck. She's an orphan / parents not in town in New York, gets kind of thrust into this alternate dimension. The alternate dimension fortunately speaks English, and they kind of even make fun of that. And it's like, yeah, okay, we get it. You have to.
It's convenient.
Yeah, it's convenient. It's narratively convenient that they don't speak a different language. We get it. Yeah, and then this universe has been like under threat by this evil force that's corrupting all the animals and stuff, and everyone's had to huddle in this city. But it's got that really kind of fun thing where she's like street smart and from the city, and these people are kind of like medieval era, and they're like shocked by the way that she speaks and stuff, and she uses idioms, and they're like, I don't think I understand what you're trying to say.
It sounds a bit like the Never-Ending Story.
It's got that kind of
very high praise.
But it has that kind of fantasy
premise-wise.
Yeah, was it Black Knight with Martin Lawrence, where in fact, actually, I've said it, very similar kind of premise of like, what if we take a cool person from the city and throw them into medieval times? I think the thing where it was really getting dunked on social media was the dialogue, and
I didn't think that. I mean, the clips I saw, they were fine. They were almost funny, I should say.
It talks a lot. Like this game is always talking, and honestly the performance is pretty good, right? It's good actor, good performance. It's she has her wristband thing, which is like Jarvis from Avengers, and her performances are all pretty good. I think the writing actually generally pretty good. There's the line that people were like making fun of that's in the trailer where she's like, hey, I can move things with my hand, that's a thing that I do now, which is kind of like that fourth wall break that you sometimes get in trailers. Annoyingly, that is in the game, and it's a bit incongruous when she does it. It's like, she doesn't really speak like that at any other point. They just kind of like, you can tell they've kind of thought, it's pretty well, the line's been really well landed. We should probably put it in somewhere. And I think because of the performances being quite good and the writing being quite witty and memorable, and just honestly, it's just joke a second really. It really stings when it has to repeat itself. Like there's bits where you'll go into a cave and there'll be a chest and there'll be some quip because everyone has to quip now. And it's like, okay, cool, fine, yeah. But then 45 minutes later, when I go into a different cave and there's a different chest and it does the exact same quip on repeat, it's like, oh dear. Oh, it's like, it really like sticks out, and it's like, it's a shame.
That is unfortunate.
All in all though.
Do you feel you're built in, you feel like attached to the story, or
all in all, I think it's a pretty good game. Yeah, like given how much it was absolutely getting slated on Twitter, and Twitter obviously not necessarily the best barometer of how good a game is. I thought it was pretty good, pretty fun. I was definitely got bought into the story and the universe. Anyway, it had enough intrigue to it that I wanted to see it through. No spoilers.
To be honest, I'm now bought in just because of the Never-Ending Story reference. Might go watch that movie again.
You guys mentioned playing with your kids, so I'll drop in another last minute what I've been playing, which is GoldenEye.
Yes.
Yeah. Funny moment when I was like, "Come on, kids, let's play some games."
You don't know. You've been born.
My youngest walked into the living room. And it was just on I think it was just rolling the attract mode for GoldenEye, and he's like, "An N64 game." And my wife says to him, "How did you know it's an N64 game?" He goes, "Because it looks totally crappy."
Oh no.
He is, for ref, he's 9 years old and has no right to just clock an N64 game and spot it and call it out a mile away. So, but despite that, once I got them over that visual hurdle, oh god, it's so good. The multiplayer in GoldenEye holds up so well. It's just, it has a level, I think, of just couch fun accessibility that you just don't get in modern shooters. Like, modern shooters don't have 4-player split screen anyway, but even if they did, there'd be one player who would just be good and would just massacre everybody else.
Wasn't that famously a bolt-on mode as well that wasn't actually going to be in the game? I feel like I heard that somewhere.
I feel like Nintendo weren't okay with it. I might be making that up.
I feel like there was something about that mode which made it.
I think you're right. There is some histoire to that and how it came about.
Because I mean, that is the bit that everybody remembers about that game.
Yeah,
it's like
it's so good. Like just
chasing people around his old job.
Going back to Facility for the first time in 20 years and or more, and just like completely, absolutely remembering the layout. Obviously, the kids do not remember the layout, so
you're zooming in, picking up the shield, one shot, back that way, pick up the shield again.
Wait in the toilets, just waiting with the cubicle door shut. Just because they follow the map in, so they know you're in there, and it's just everybody's door. So you never like shotgun.
I think I had a very different experience because like. When I was running around, there's a level, I can't remember what it's called, but it's like in the jungle and it's got loads of really
I think it's called Jungle.
Jungle, there you go. Who came up with that? But I just remember just spending the whole time just like looking up and down, running against the wall because I couldn't actually figure out.
Is this when you were? Was this when you were 9 years old?
Probably. I mean, I'm guessing so.
Or you tried to play it on the Switch. Now, if anyone's tried to play it on the Switch, those controls are not intuitive. They
everybody needs a Fraser though. When you're playing golf.
Yeah, to make you feel good about winning.
So the patsing.
Oh, so the Switch control's different. I've not played on Switch.
They are. So I presume because it's using the Switch emulator, is just doing its kind of standard one. It's just does its standard mapping. There is a control scheme that you need to go into the system settings and change buttons around to get it to work.
Wasn't someone saying you have to take the Joy-Cons and like flip them over and turn them upside down or something for it to work?
That'll feel more natural.
That'll feel more like the N64 controller.
That would feel more natural.
Yeah. So what you need to get is you need to get a blob of blue tack. You stick the control. No, it's left trigger is fire because it was the Z button, wasn't it? Z trigger.
Well, speaking of remasters, I just pre-ordered myself a copy of Metroid Prime, which I'm very excited about. And I guess that sort of segues nicely into our next topic. Sorry, Mike, for stealing your hosting thunder.
Yeah, and our industry topic for this episode is credits. As you mentioned, Metroid Prime in an absolutely seamless segue. Do you want to fill us in on the news story there?
Yeah, seamless. We've seen a lot on Twitter and the internet. Lots of stuff around the original devs not getting the credit in the remastered version. Whether or not that will be updated or not, I'm not quite sure, but we thought that'd be an interesting topic to kind of discuss here and get a bit of a Maverick point of view on that.
Yeah, so we should definitely mention that it was Zoid Kirsch, who's the senior gameplay engineer on Metro Prime. Feels ironic if we didn't credit him, but he was the person that brought it to people's attention.
Yeah.
Typically, credits in remasters often go the other way, where the remaster team hasn't been credited because they just have the original credits. But,
they'd rather pretend it was the original team that did it rather than the
well, it depends
vendor that brought it into the
remasters.
port.
Yeah, kind of weird situation, but it obviously it's incredibly disappointing when you've spent time on anything and then find that you've not got a credit.
The credits are one of those things, right, where they are valueless to the person who's actually buying the game. They don't care. They're probably not even going to watch.
Yeah, it's turn the TV off at that point.
It is worth. I guess it made your kid cry in Sonic Frontiers. So maybe that was a particularly beautiful implementation of the credits. But for the most part, obviously players don't care. They're not.
I mean, that's why credits often have a fast forward button or like a skip.
And we haven't got to the point where usually we do a post credit sequence, Marvel style, to keep people like glued to their seat to get to the end.
Oh yeah, let's do that.
Well, Red Dead Boy over here. Have you not got to the end yet?
Spoilers. No, I haven't finished it yet.
Okay. We'll pick it up on the next show.
Okay.
You're in for such a treat.
But my point was going to be that they have all the value to the team, right? To the people on it. So it's frankly not a huge amount of effort to put people's names on there for the work that they did.
And no developer is going and checking that it was correct, right? If you like are applying for another job and you say, "Oh, I worked on this game," like you can generally figure out if someone's telling the truth or not just by speaking to them. But you don't go and like, I better go and load up the game now and just like check through the credits. I think it's
a complete Metroid Prime rebate to try and check that person's CV.
I don't think you worked on this at all, did you?
Yeah, so I mean, it's one of those things. It's like, it's playing devil's advocate. I guess there could potentially be a worry that you accidentally leave someone out, or you haven't checked the original credits properly. But it feels like there's not much justification for leaving an original dev team out.
And I guess the tee up that Fraser's saying, like a Maverick position on it, is actually what should be a very, very low bar to clear, but is unfortunately rarely cleared, which is just all the value is for the team, right? All the value is for the people that worked on the game.
Yeah.
And so anybody who does anything on the game will be credited appropriately for that. Which again sounds like a very low bar, but I've worked on games and then left that studio before the game shipped, and then they've gone yeah. One of those games, like my kid has a bigger section in the credits than I do because they were born during the development. It's like they get the whole baby section with a little loving quote from me, and I'm not in the actual credits.
Did you say there was a picture as well?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah, that's great, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of strange that my children have Maybe Games pages, because they happen to come into the world during development on some games. But
yeah,
it'd be funny when they grow up though and they become developers themselves, and it's like they've got like a 20-year gap in their career. An employer's gonna be like, can you explain this?
Yeah. I'm not going to give them an interview because they've got too weird a gap. That's too unexplained.
20 years out of work. Yeah. You know what that means, don't you?
Yeah, it's very
lazy.
Strange.
It's obviously becoming increasingly more important to do the social posts where you show your name in the credits, because then in 20 years' time you can go, no, I was, honestly. Just give me a sec. Yeah.
Scroll back for 20 years.
Scroll through posts. At least it's there somewhere.
Until Elon Musk has a meltdown and deletes everything.
So I'll now go on to the bit that I was going to do when we finished what you've been playing before you kind of like...
Sorry.
Before you flip the table on the script, which is to take a question from the audience. So we did a tweet earlier today, asked some people if they wanted to ask us some questions, and we have been sent a few through. So David Turner asks, if you had the opportunity to remake a classic game, what would you choose? And would player expectation have an effect on your choice? Little double question there.
That is a sick question.
It's a great question.
I've spent probably an inappropriate amount of time thinking about this. So for a long time, I was like, Ocarina of Time, a remaster would be amazing, which it would be. But I'd love to work on a Banjo-Kazooie remaster.
Yeah.
N64 original Banjo-Kazooie, just like an absolutely incredible example of a game that was perfectly formed. Like the length is perfect, the scale of the challenge is perfect, characters are great. And maybe slightly counterintuitively, it's actually aged really well. It's one of those games where you just the way that team had been able to master that piece of hardware by that point. There's just like a level of artistry that you don't see in a lot of other N64 games. I played through the Xbox re-release of it with my kid, and I couldn't believe like how well it still played. And since they've re-released it, they've kind of removed some of the more infuriating aspects, like the fact that you could go into a level, collect like 99 of the notes, leave, and then you'd have to do it all over again. Although I did still manage to completely self-own myself by getting all the way through the game to the final area, which is Tick Tuck Wood, just in case anybody doesn't know. The final version of Tick Tuck Wood, in the winter, there was 4 notes for me left to collect on the top of the roof of something. It was getting really difficult and kind of frustrating. And then in a sort of rage, I went, I'll do this tomorrow. And I sort of put the pad down, quit, and managed to erase my save game in the process.
Wow.
But I was so determined I actually played it all over again.
Amazing.
Instead. But yeah, I think that's...
Would you put the N64 back in Banjo's house? Because they took that out when they did that.
Yeah, they did, didn't they? Yeah, no, I totally would. But I think in terms of the second part of the question, player expectations, I think... So actually, I don't know if anybody's seen it, but Banjo is one of those games where you go on YouTube and you do actually find a couple of people who've had a go at recreating certain parts of it in like an Unreal 5 or something. Mm-hmm. And actually, I think there's one that pretty much remade the entire thing, and it's a really nice example. Actually, they've done some really cool stuff. But I think the player expectation thing is interesting in that I totally wouldn't. I would definitely treat it as a remaster. Remaster, not a remake. Mm-hmm. I think there's something about the structure of that game that's actually really solid, so you wouldn't want to mess around with that. And I think the way you treat the artwork, you'd want to honour that sort of, you want to up the fidelity, but you wouldn't want to leave that sort of cool, cartoonish, illustrative sort of side of things. And I think a lot of people on the face of it would just go, just make it super high fidelity and super realistic, like, make the dirt a UE5 Megascan asset or something.
You've seen that meme of the cat where they update the it's like that.
Is everyone else weirded out about how Ben had this answer ready? It's like I'm now really like nervous about having to do mine in a minute. Because
also seasons in that last level before Forza Horizon 4.
Yes. I mean,
they knew that seasons changed everything.
How did they? You mean they invented seasons? We were selling a lie.
Do you know? I'm not even joking. When we started working on that game and that was a thing, I was like, oh my god, it's like
Banjo. There's your answer. He's been thinking about this.
Very excellent. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, a long time.
It's one you mentioned doing the remake the remaster rather than the remake, and that is a good shout for another reason. And it's not so much player expectation, but potentially publisher, which is they'd want you to do voices. They'd be like,
that's a good point.
They would be like, oh, who can we cast as Banjo? Which is obviously a much better way to do it.
I'm available.
And I think going remaster allows you to just keep all of that intact and not have to worry about potentially voicing that game, where I think it would lose some charm.
Yeah, and think of all the memory you would save. Just saying, those audio files can get hefty, right, Fraser?
Yep.
So on a rare theme, I'm going to go with Blast Court, which was
interesting.
Yeah, and the main reason I picked that one is it's a super fun game. It's like the story's absurd. It's like they've got a construction company or a team with access to construction vehicles. There's a nuclear truck that's out of control and it can't steer. No one can change its course, so you have to demolish everything in the path of that, using an array of really awkward to control construction vehicles. The reason I think it deserves a remaster and why I choose to do it is because it didn't play very well. It suffered from that N64 time of 20 frames a second,
5 polygons.
Yeah, not a looker either, despite having quite a kind of bird's eye view. So it wasn't showing a whole load of the environment, but it still struggled. And I think you could make something really spectacular if you had access to the technology we do now. It was super fun. It was really self-aware, had loads of really funny humour, the type of stuff you get from a rare game.
I like the way that we're kind of giving away our sort of ballpark age ranges.
Yes. Well, allow me to continue that theme. Because thinking about this question, and I always do this with these kind of questions, which is I always answer it with a game or something that's very personal to me. And my pick for this would sidestep the second point, because I don't think there would be much player expectation. But the game that I would want to remake is the first game I ever owned, which was Gauntlet. Gauntlet on the Commodore 64. And I'm actually surprised. I think there was a remake on PS2 maybe, but I'm surprised that no one's actually gone back and tried to redo Gauntlet. It feels like
I feel like this is a game. The name sounds very familiar, but actually...
So it's like a...
Get a laptop out, somebody.
Pull up the Commodore 64 trailer. So it was an arcade game first, and then was obviously ported to home computers and consoles. You could pick your class, so you could be warrior...
Valkyrie.
Valkyrie
Needs food.
Perfectly. That wasn't in the. I don't think that was in the Commodore 65.
Okay, no, I doubt it was.
But it was in the arcade. Other like high fantasy things. There was Elf, Dwarf. I can't remember the classes now. Really, this is the prep I didn't do for this question. Thanks for making me look bad, Ben. But I just think that in modern times, a game like that with that same kind of high fantasy theming, with a modern lick of paint, 4-player of course, on Game Pass would be ace. And I think there'd be loads of room now to keep it quite. Even if the gameplay was actually kind of similar, like so it's the kind of top down view on it. I think with like modern tech, VFX, get some ace spells in there. I think there's quite a lot of appetite for kind of high fantasy at the moment. You know, that Dungeons and Dragons film coming out. I think you'd do quite well with a Gauntlet remake.
Yeah. So I was gonna go with Wave Race 64 because but to be honest, I think it actually holds up pretty well. The controls were great.
The frame rate's not great.
Yeah, I just don't know what you would achieve from a remaster. So instead, I decided to go for
4K 60.
It was buttery smooth in my mind when I was playing. I decided to go for Star Fox Adventures on the GameCube because
another Rare game.
Well, for me,
guys, you're making it weird.
Well, I didn't know what he was going to say, but that for me was probably the first open world feeling game that there was. Plus, like the aesthetic of it is just dinosaurs with like talking foxes and chickens or roosters, whatever he was.
Why did you like it again?
Why did I like it? I mean, it was a great game. It was critically not. I mean, it got like 82 Metacritic or something like that, but it wasn't remembered to be.
I don't think Metacritic existed then. I think that is a retroactive Metacritic. Should not be applied.
In my head, 82.
What did official Nintendo might give it?
No idea. But if we did a remaster, then it'd get 100.
So I always was a little. So I played that game and I did enjoy it, but I was always a little bit salty that it wasn't that Dinosaur Planet thing they revealed first, because that looked really
like a better game. Yeah, it was kind of pretty unusual that as well. To like reveal the game and be like, all right, okay, so it's Dinosaur Planet, cool, got it. And then after it's already been announced, going, actually forget that, it's the same game, but now it's got Fox
in space.
Also, shout out to the late 90s, early 2000s Rare team.
Yeah.
Just knocking it out of the park.
All right, shall we move on? This is, after all, the Maverick Games podcast, and we've talked very little about Maverick Games so far.
About Rare.
Yeah.
Well, they don't have a podcast, so we'll do it for them. It is a bit unusual how we've accidentally ended up talking about Rare for almost the entire show. So, cool. Rare, you're welcome. So we should probably talk a little bit about Maverick Games. Last time we recorded a show, it was the day before we did the studio reveal. The reveal which involved myself and Harinder, our COO, doing an interview with gamesindustry.biz, and we pushed our website live. And I started that day thinking, hope it gets picked up by Eurogamer. Oh, that'd be really cool if it was starring Eurogamer. Thinking really we were probably just going to have the GI.biz article and that would be it. But that story had legs. That got picked up by over 150 separate outlets. Millions and millions and millions of eyes saw our announcement, which was little more than, hey guys, we've started a studio. It's going to be good. We're going to make it a nice place to work. Didn't say a great deal more than that really in that interview. But yeah, that got picked up all over. Kind of blew us away.
That when the Forbes article came out, we were all like, "Oh my god, we're in Forbes!" And then I was like telling other people, and they were like, "What's Forbes again?" And I was like, "Oh come on, it's Forbes!"
The best part about
it means we're a real business.
The best part about that moment was it was the fact the news was delivered by our content director Gareth Harwood, who is like renowned for having a very steady, calm demeanor about him always, and he delivered that news in just quintessential Gareth Harwood manner, where he was just like, "We're in Forbes."
So matter of fact.
And then the rest of us just go, "Oh my god!" Started losing it. It was a great moment. But yeah, that whole day was just
so fun.
It was amazing. We all sort of went to our local watering hole, the Drawing Board. Shout out to the Drawing Board. Love those guys.
Yeah.
So we were camped out in there with our laptops, turning the place into a like mobile office type scenario, which I'm sure they were thrilled about. But yeah,
we were putting money in the till.
we really were. Yeah, we racked up a pretty big bill that night, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, rock and roll, mostly with coffees and hot chocolates.
Yeah. Kind of vibes we're putting out.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely one of those days in my career that I'll never forget. Because it was just, I think it was amazing to get that sort of response from people. Just, so many people so positive about it as well. I think that was the thing. Like, quite often you put things out on the internet and you just expect a certain level of cynicism or toxicity even occasionally.
Yeah,
but
or like apathy at least.
Apathy, yeah. But the fact that all of that, wasn't true, and actually it was just, there was a great buzz and loads of really lovely comments from people. It was just, super energizing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go a little bit inside baseball on that. Really, people won't probably be aware of the machinations of it, but when you do this kind of announce, your PR team will provide a summary of the success of that piece, and in that they have that sentiment chart that tracks whether it was a positive sentiment, neutral sentiment, negative sentiment, or I guess there's one below that, which I guess is your toxicity, across all the different outlets and all the different kind of conversation that's happening around it. And again, this is really remarkable. There was like zero negativity. There wasn't one negative comment or sentiment directed at us across like 150 separate outlets and various other discussions, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah. Let's see how that tracks into the future.
Yeah. We set a high bar now.
I'm sure it'll stay that way for forever.
Yeah.
There's no reason to suggest otherwise.
No.
That sounds sinister.
Yeah. I didn't mean it.
We've killed that person.
Nobody will find the body. Should we take a question?
Yeah, let's do that.
Take a question. Let's have a look what we've got here. Okay, so a few people have asked some version of this. Bonds Pop, Frodos, a couple of others have asked. My first question is: are you going to announce a new game this year or not? I would say pretty unlikely that we'll announce the game this year. We are working on a game. The reason we actually started this podcast was that we did want to give the community a bit of a look inside the studio and get an idea of the things we're up to, the things that go on when we're not just dropping trailers and showing you gameplay in the run up to launch. We wanted to kind of bring you guys on this journey with us and kind of have a little bit more transparency than is typical in game dev. There are still going to be contractual restrictions that mean that we cannot just go, hey, here's the game. That will happen at some point at a later date.
Might not be the optimal way to reveal it either.
I think we have 127 subscribers on YouTube so far. So
going viral.
Just shadow drop in a trailer.
So probably won't do the game reveal via the podcast. But what we will do is talk loads about the making of the game, the kind of activities we're doing at each point, the things that are going on in the studio. You'll probably be able to infer from that stuff about the game, whether that's our intention or not. But the actual full reveal of the game will happen at some point later. So we're going to talk about the studio, weren't we? So
we were.
Yeah, so I thought we should cover off the announce thing because that kind of happened in between shows. The other thing that happened was we moved from our temporary office, which was just next to the drawing board, to our new office, which you posted that video online.
Yeah, that video has had over 50,000 views now, from what I've seen, which is pretty incredible.
You're a star now.
Well, I still haven't had anyone stop me in the street and say, hey, you're that guy that I don't know where you're from.
Give it time.
Yeah, one day. Hey, if the podcast takes off, I'll be like, I know your voice. Yeah, but the reception to the video has been pretty incredible, which is for anyone who hasn't seen it, a very simple video just saying, hey, it's our first day in the studio. Had a little walk around. There was loads of empty boxes and just champagne glasses and all that sort of stuff lying around. Really kind of just the start of our journey. And I think hopefully we'll just be posting more content like that just to kind of show you the inner workings of Maverick Games. And it really has just been super exciting ever since then. I mean, that sort of video and all the engagement we've had online has I just had, aside from news articles, like loads of people in the industry getting in touch just to say, hey, looks like what you're doing is super cool, and congratulations, and wish you well for the future, and that's just super nice.
Yeah, I think one of the things we've been really keen to do is studios announcers don't happen every week, but they do happen, and usually what happens is the studio announces and then they tunnel underground and you don't hear from them again. And I think something we really wanted to do differently was make sure we're always in the front of people's minds. People know what we're up to an extent, and as you say, take people along for that ride. And I think hopefully that's going to be interesting. If it stops being interesting, maybe we'll stop doing it.
So the studio itself is pretty good compared to the first time we went to look in there, where it still had the previous tenants' junk everywhere. Every single blind was broken. It had actually been left unused for quite some time, and just still had a load of dusty stuff in it. But it had a couple of crucial things. One, it was available, and two, it had pretty good parking facilities. And so we agreed to take it, thinking it's not a long-term lease. We can move somewhere better. This will do us for the short term. But when we went in there and those points were not true, it wasn't full of other people's junk. It wasn't all dusty. It had all been cleaned. There was guys in there that day actually replacing all the blinds. Wasn't there to give us working window fixtures. It was completely transformed. It's just such a, and we've worked in a few, right? But it was such a perfect development space. Really just had so much open space, really great layout. All the desks and stuff are absolutely massive, so there's loads of room for you to fill it with Amiibo and whatever other crap you've got.
Big windows as well.
Yeah, it's really bright and
action figures actually.
Action figures
and some Amiibo.
Yeah.
But it did have proper apocalypse vibes when we went to go and see it.
Oh, it was like great environmental storytelling. Like, Janet, please file this when you get back to your desk. And then, like, a Jeffrey Archer novel left on a desk and stuff.
Disparaging comments about somebody called Dave on a whiteboard or something. Yeah.
There was some weird stuff on that whiteboard.
Poor Dave.
There was some weird
Shout
stuff.
out to Dave.
We actually we found. We turned one of them around the other day and found like a sort of hidden little Easter egg of some of that history still left. We're like, what does it use the other side of the whiteboard?
That weird,
had
like a weird blue tack sculpture on it.
No. Yeah, that was
Gareth.
That was me.
I opened my drawer this morning and I had a secret stash of Scott's porridge oats. The little pots.
I mean,
it's still in date. And I thought,
do we need to open up an HR case for this? Is someone putting Scottish porridge in
to make me feel at home?
Yeah.
The Scottish goblins in the office. That'd be really cute, to be honest.
I don't think you can.
Do the Scottish have goblins? I thought it'd be like fairies.
They're a bit like Mrs. Doubtfire, to be honest.
I believe the canon of Mrs. Doubtfire is actually English, not Scottish.
Well, I mean, I wasn't meaning to insult Robin Williams, the late great Robin Williams. Is she actually English?
She says she is, yeah.
Oh. Is that meant to be an English accent?
Because Pierce Brosnan's also, and Pierce Brosnan's like, I've spent some time in England. What is that accent? And she's like, oh, I know, I'm from all over.
Oh, wow.
Mostly England. And
little did Robin Williams know he set like progress back for Scottish people in America and people not thinking you're French. 20 years.
The context there is that Fraser once went over to Seattle to visit Microsoft, and the people at the hotel asked if he was French.
Oh.
It's okay, I'm used to it. I live in England.
The fun bit about the studio as well has been, I don't know if you guys have got this, but switching that focus between doing some important like concept road mapping and then what coffee machine should we get?
Yeah.
That has been, instead of getting like that whiplash, it's actually been really fun and energizing to just...
Oh, yeah. I mean, waking up on the morning when that Nespresso lady was coming to visit us was like Christmas morning, wasn't it?
It was the fact it was booked into all of our diaries as the Nespresso demo. It's like this really important corporate event. But we all came in like, today's the day.
Yay.
And it's all coffee that we've tried before elsewhere.
Yeah.
We were going, yeah, I really like that one.
I love the way you just put the pod in and
coffee comes out. Yeah.
Whoa.
I love the way this wasn't
Nescafe.
I love the way this wasn't £3.50 at Cafe Nero.
Shout out to Costa Coffee.
On the subject of cool studio stuff, have you guys walked around the UE5 demo of Gareth Harwood's refit?
Yes.
It's so cool.
Yes, it is very cool.
It's so cool.
I haven't walked around it. He was just kind of flying around. Are you saying there's like a
there's a
playable demo?
There's a playable demo of the office in which you go and
exclusive for the Maverick Games Podcast.
Refurb of the meeting rooms.
You said we weren't doing any game reveals on the podcast, Mike.
So the first playable demo announced here on episode 1.
Yeah.
You can walk around the office.
Exactly. That's what everybody wants.
I think he started trying to make it in The Sims 4. Realised that was massively.
Did he really? I would love that.
That grid layout was just really restrictive. He wanted to throw some angles in there.
All right, should we take a question from these guys on the internet? All right, so some guy called Nicky Poo, who goes by @AR12Nick.
Oh, who's that?
That guy. What are you most excited about after starting your own studio? Anything in particular you're excited to learn about? Also, can I come visit, please and thanks?
I would love Nick to come and visit. That's a point that's appropriate.
Yeah. Please
Thank you for finishing the sentence. Sure. Yeah, I mean, you have to touch. Yeah, at a point that's appropriate. When we've got something for you to play, then by all means, we'll invite you over. What are you most excited about starting your own studio?
Well, we get to decide on all the different types of entertainment we have in the breakout space. So we've been having some pretty good discussions about, do we air hockey? Do we do like pool? Do we do like foosball?
Sega Rally 95.
Sega Rally 95, yeah. You were even talking about like a basketball hoop or something like that. But
yeah, we're having to look at like the suspended ceiling is going to be a problem for it, but I think it's a solvable one.
You know, when you walk around, there's just like polystyrene on the floor that someone's hit a ceiling tile.
So this is not about entertainment, but it's something I'm really excited about, which is the shape of the team that we build. Mm-hmm. Like I think when you get to that point where you've got people buzzing around the office or remotely or whatever, all working on something, collaborating on something, you can't beat that. It's just such a great thing. It's a real privilege to work in this industry on this type of stuff with a real wide range of skill sets. And at the moment we're going through the recruitment process, so we've got loads of people that we're talking to, and I don't know if anybody else has been. Maybe this is creepy, but when I'm talking to somebody, I sort of do a thing where I'll imagine interacting with them on a daily basis. And it's just that's I think that future just at the moment feels really exciting.
Yeah, and we've already spoken to like amazing people, and we've got amazing people signed up and coming on the journey with us, and maybe you'll see some of those in the future point. But yeah, that kind of passion that you just get when you start talking to somebody like, these people are Mavericks and they're gonna do amazing things.
And I think part of that is it's that thing where we've been privileged enough in this situation to try and set out some goals as to what that team is like. Mm-hmm. We're looking for certain type of people who get really excited about particular ways of working, and that's super cool, right? Who nobody really ever gets a chance to do something like that. So the fact that we are is pretty incredible, really.
Totally.
I think for me, the thing that's most exciting is the opportunity to really just do things that are new, that are modern, that are different, that are very, very difficult to do in a large existing company because the risk is too high, because the amount of work is too high. Big ships, they turn very slowly. An example of, and this isn't the thing that got me most excited, but it's an example, was that we were able to publish our salary bands when we put jobs up on the website.
Yeah,
that is something that is, for various reasons, very difficult to do in a large organization. You have to.
The ramifications are huge. Like so many hurdles stop that happening, right?
Yeah, there's so many reasons when you're a big organization that most of it will be expensive to do it because you'll probably have to correct some salaries of people who already work there. But as a new company, we're not in that situation, and it allows us to just be kind of upfront about it. And like how many people have we interviewed since we put those out there, where people have like just really kind of thanked us for it in the interview, and so that's really great to see that. I think it encourages people to apply, right? They see it, they say, well, that band is higher than what I'm currently got, so I know that I'm not wasting my time by applying there. They've got headroom to be able to improve my package. That's one thing. I think in terms of just general game development in general, everything that we do, there are so many new, modern, kind of progressive practices and policies that we can do that are just challenging to do in a bigger, older organization.
Not having all that red tape is lovely. If you have a cool idea, you could be in many other places, and you'd go, I'll have to get that signed off by this person. And actually, we're in this really great situation where let's go make it happen. Let's go do it. Long may that continue.
Yeah, that's happened multiple times. Just even in the last week, where just a question comes up, like, I guess we should do that way. We should try it, and
let's do it right now.
Yeah, let's do it. In some cases, like what Nespresso pod to have and that kind of thing. No, it is that just agile leanness that you can, that means you can make those really quick snap decisions without just deliberating over it or running it up the flagpole, which can just take weeks, months, etc.
There are certain things on the art side specifically that's always a massive pain in the bum with as well. Like there's a few things that you can really trigger an artist with, I find, in the studio. One is talking about logos, and the other is the dreaded key art. For those not savvy with the whole key art game dev debate, it's basically this kind of like a piece of concept art, but basically what you're trying to do is sum up everything about your game in one image that also needs to make everybody in said chain that you're mentioning happy.
Also needs to be a 128 by 128 thumbnail as well.
Yeah, exactly. And it's one of those things where basically everybody acknowledges right up front that it's an impossible task. Yet we do it anyway because it is necessary at some point.
It's less about the output and more about because the output is, usually looks great and does what it needs to do, but the process is.
But those calls where you end up, usually on a Teams call with a bunch of people that have not been involved in the process at all up until that point. Yet some poor artist has sunk 6 months worth of, maybe not that long, 6 weeks worth of work in something. And then they're like, oh, this is really good, but could we maybe just change up 90% of the image? That wouldn't be too hard, would it? And then rinse and repeat, back to square one. And that poor artist is like, let's not do that. Can we avoid doing that?
Yeah, I feel like I'm doing some therapy for you here.
I'm sorry.
and yet I know the problem.
I feel like anybody watching this who has worked with me in the past is going, oh yeah, that time. I know what he's talking about. There've been many.
You all gave like super serious answers, and I'm like, air hockey.
Just trying to cement your
It's okay to be excited about air hockey. Yeah. Don't worry. That's the thing that's you're most excited about.
I'm not excited about anything else.
That is personal to you, and none
is
of
it the noise?
You're wrong.
The clunk.
Oh yeah, the noise is great. Yeah, it's funny you were saying like sum up everything in a thumbnail, because imagine if you got asked to do that with a sound effect. It's like,
hang on, which one is it on?
That's it.
That's our game reveal right there.
All right, we have 2 more questions. Starship Power 88 says, will there be a way fans could visit the studio and maybe part of the ticket price, the proceeds could go to charity of some kind?
Yes, so that's Maverick Games Land, which is not due to open until 2027. It's going to have rides, stands for T-shirts and stuff. And
there'll be like versions of us where it's actually just like cast members, to borrow the Disney language, with a dress to look like us, and you get your picture taken with somebody pretending to be Tom.
And please look forward to Euro Maverick Games Land, which will open in 2030 in France.
Aggressive timeline.
They just crack on.
I've heard it's the happiest place on earth.
Yeah.
I love the thought of like charging for a ticket to get into the office as it currently stands. You get inside and go, I can have an espresso.
Oh, you've run out of the good pots.
Ben looks up at desk like, that's 45 quid pay up.
I do love the idea of like getting more fans into the studio once you're like more established. Once you actually have like an IP that you can have like a cool statue and all that sort of stuff, and like get a bit of a photo. Like I think that would have been a dream of mine to have the opportunity to go and visit somewhere like Rare.
There's an air of mystery, isn't there?
Yeah,
like Rare had those amazing like gates, didn't they?
Stop talking about Rare.
I loved.
I actually did live just down the road from them as a kid. It was like a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory style situation. Yeah, we should start plugging Rare now.
We should really stop plugging around now.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I guess an example of what you're talking about isn't a thing that's actually regularly open to fans, but 343 have got that Halo Museum in the downstairs of their office, haven't they?
Yeah.
Which, whilst not
cool.
a paid attraction, could be. People would pay money to go and have a look around there and meet some of the devs and stuff. That feels like a thing. So maybe Starship Power 8, maybe one day we'll have a facility where fans can come in. I think at the moment, though,
you'd be more disappointed than we would, I think.
Yeah.
We've got a fan.
All right, final question. Okay, so Aaron Durkin asks, this is actually quite a serious question. How should we tackle the seemingly endless skill shortage? And then follow on, what are the big changes in the industry in the next 5 years, and what changes should happen?
I mean, I'll just chip in first, I guess, with saying, at the moment, I'm not actually, if we're talking about game dev skills, I'm not seeing that necessarily. I'm seeing lots of super talented people coming through at the moment, applying to want to work with us, which is absolutely awesome. I think for sure there are certain areas that are always more tricky. I
think recruitment is harder than it was a couple of years ago.
For sure.
I don't think it's reached the point at which it's a crisis. Like I say, I mean, we've had so many people apply in the last month since we put the website up that, it doesn't in any way feel like a shortage because we have multiple good applicants for every role that we put up there.
I think there's definitely areas of diversity where you just don't see a lot of
and I think
applicants.
that's the undertone of kind of second layer of the question is like I think we are very passionate about mentoring and kind of being part of the community and like getting out to universities and colleges and more encouraging people to get into the industry, but also kind of giving that context as to, hey, if you study this course, then you could be Ben, the art director, one day. Maybe or nobody could match you, but
thanks,
but it's something that we're definitely passionate about, and that will be, hopefully in the years to come, something that we do at Maverick Games with, internship programs and just making sure that we have a structure set up in place so that we actually have a really good sort of learning process for people who are coming in as entry level, but eventually, like, everyone started out as entry level at some point, and it's making sure that you create those opportunities to get those people in the door.
And the door analogy, opening doors for people that can't, that might not have had an upbringing that helps them get into a place where they can apply, or even study.
I think the uni thing is, so it's a hot topic for me because I actually just spent a couple of days with a local university helping give some pointers with regards to the way they're putting their courses together, and that's. I think that's probably a way that I think we can help. So I think with the industry being as buoyant as it is at the moment, with lots of really cool stuff going on, I think for universities it's actually really hard for them to find like tutoring staff who have those sorts of skills that are actually passionate enough about education that they want to be in that environment rather than a dev studio. At least this was the message I was getting from them. So I think if there's anything that we can do, and I think there is, and I'm hoping there is, to help the universities put those curriculums together and that sort of the structure of the courses together in a way where it's going to mean those students are leaving the university ready to work at a studio. I think that would be great. That's something that I think we can definitely do more of.
Totally.
As an industry.
It's a great question though.
I think you touched on diversity earlier. We'll have seen it, but when I went to university, I can't speak for you guys, but there was not a particularly diverse cohort in that video games course. I would say perhaps some diversity in kind of social standing, but not the more traditional diversity in terms of gender, ethnicity, backgrounds. And we've all seen over the last kind of 5 to 7 years a real effort to get into high schools and kind of tell young women that they can have they can have a career in STEM, they can have a career in tech. And I think that's actually been really effective because I've seen so many more great grads coming through that are women, where they've come through with a degree in one of the STEM subjects or games, and that is stark. The difference has been from 0 to 30-40% maybe. I don't think it's reached 50%, but it's clearly on that trajectory, and that is the result of like real effort from, frankly, people like us visiting schools, speaking to young women and saying, hey, this is actually a real career for you. This is a thing that you can do if you're into games, if you love games, which obviously so many young people do. This is a real opportunity for you. I kind of mentioned kind of social background there. There is an economic barrier to getting into games, which is you need to be able to afford to play games. And there is an economic barrier there. But I think that but as long as that barrier is cleared, then everything else is in front of you, and you can just go at it. It isn't the kind of thing where you need your entire childhood to have been in theatre school so that you can get that role in the theatre. It is your entire childhood was playing PlayStation, and you've know actually loads about games off the back of that, and that sets you up to go on and actually be pretty successful.
And sometimes it's that psychological barrier as well. Like we were talking the other day about, my parents didn't quite see the value in me going to study something like audio production and where that would lead to. And certainly even I never really imagined it would lead to a career like this. And it's kind of a funny path that I'd sort of followed. But, you go into universities and I'm going to speak at an SAE event, Sound and Audio Engineering Institute, which is opening in Leamington Spa, a little plug there. But half of it is about speaking to the parents as well, to encourage the parents that actually this is a worthwhile career path for your child who probably might also be be architecture or being a lawyer or all those kind of sensible sort of I mean this is a sensible career path, and sometimes it's just seeing people who have succeeded in the industry give a little bit of confidence behind that.
Yeah, thinking back, I remember my mum saying, but you're so good at maths, you could be an accountant. And as a teen, I probably didn't know now what I know about accountancy. But even then, it didn't have that much appeal.
The seedy underbelly of the accountancy world.
Well, it isn't, is it? It's just dull. It's just counting numbers and getting paid.
Although we still
which
use...
is a good job. It's a good job. It's just... It's not quite as invigorating as video games.
We probably use Excel just the same amount as finance, right?
Tom does.
Yeah, Tom does.
Oh, he loves Excel. Okay.
Choose the colours.
Yeah, the careers advisor at school did like a quiz and suggested I joined the Royal Marines.
I can see that. Yeah,
can you?
No,
I think those careers questionnaires they only have like 30 jobs on them,
and it's all ones that the government need you to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Make sure at least 15% of these kids get in the army.
We laugh, but it's true.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you're an S. Oh, yeah. Teacher. It's like weird. It's like no one does it, and it's author.
No.
Look how happy you were though when I said I can see that. You were like, oh really? Like you just needed a bit of encouragement from a peer.
I think I was shocked, really.
Okay.
I'm close to tears when I get a splinter. I can't.
Oh my god, is that blood?
Well, thank you very much, everybody, for sending in those questions. We will do another call before the next podcast. So you've got a little while, a few weeks maybe, to have a think about what those questions might be. In the meantime, if you've enjoyed the podcast, why not subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, whatever it is you're listening right now. Hit that subscribe button, hit like, follow us on Twitter, visit the website, I guess, all that good stuff that people in this kind of role would usually say at this point of the show. Do we have any sponsors we need to plug? Are we sponsored by anybody this week?
Shout out to Nespresso and deliver a delicious cup of coffee.
And Rare?
And Rare, for some reason. Yeah. They make great games.
Rare are great, and so is Nespresso.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much for tuning in. We'll be back again in a few weeks. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Bye. You've been listening to the Maverick Games Podcast. If you'd like to join this adventure, head over to www.maverick-games.com.